Hello there folks, today we're taking a look at the game called Jungli-La. It's published by Tasty Mitchell Games and the designer is Hisashi Hayashi. Now in this game we're going on an adventure in a jungle, trying to find the temple with all the riches and so on. So this is a Yahtzee game with set collection. Let's take a look at how the game works. So Jungli-La is played over the course of several rounds where we roll our dice like in Yahtzee mechanic, and then eventually we will move on that path of different adventures, those cards, reaching the goal. And when you reach the goal, you will start drawing from this pile of treasures, which are 1 to 3 points, and then eventually you will get to this treasure, which marks the end of the game. Now, how this game works. As I told you, it's a Yahtzee mechanic, so on your turn you will roll 4 dice, and those dice have different faces. So they have 3 basic resources, which is soil, wood and bread. Also have letters, which will help you mitigate the luck, and also have movement, which activates after you get the resources. So on your turn you can roll your dice up to 3 times. When you roll them, you can roll as many dice as you want, re-roll, sorry, but you cannot re-roll letters, they are stuck. And once you get at least 2 letters on your roll, even if you haven't rolled up to 3 times, maybe roll only the first time, you are stuck with those letters and you have to end your rolling. Now, after that, you will see what you get. So if you get 2 or more letters, you will get 1 letter. And that means you can put them on your board over here. You can hold up to 6 letters, you can hold up to 6 different resources, but eventually you can also buy a wagon to extend your board. You can buy up to 2 of those to put them on each side to extend your boards. Letters are used for re-rolling or adding dice, or in different phases doing something else as well. So you can do all of that. I'm not gonna explain everything. Just look at the game once you get it, if you get it. But how you can use your dice. So basically, let's say I rolled something like that. What I can do, I can either take one of each resource, one of each different resource, so up to 3 different resources, wood, bread and saw. In this case, I can take 1 saw or 1 bread, only one of each resource. Or I can take all resources of one type. So for example, if there is 2 saw, I can take 2 saw. If there would be 4 or 3, I would take all of them. But I have to choose only one type. Of course, there's a possibility if I roll the letters, I can also choose to rest, which skips the rest of my turn, but I get a lot of letters. Now, you can also roll movement. So after you get the resources, you can start moving. You move on this path over here, and when you move, you have to move exactly the number of spaces that's on the dice. So here's 2 movements, I have to move 2. If there will be 3, I have to move 3. 1, 2. Now, after I move, I can buy the card that I'm standing on. And all of these cards, the different cards, they have the resource cost. So I'll pay these resources to the bank and I get the card and I get some kind of a special ability and I get points at the end of the game. And this is for set collection, so you have different types of relics basically, then you score extra points. And now in this case, if I would be at the start of my turn, so I rolled the dice, I got resources, now I'm gonna move. Before that, if I'm already standing in on one of the Discoverer's cards, I can buy that card instead. So I can buy only 1 card, but I can buy a card before I move as well, which is nice. So I can buy this card and then move 2 spaces. And those different cards they have, for example, you will eventually add 1 die to your pool of dice. You have to decide it before you roll. You can add symbols to your dice rolls, like movements, like different resources like bread or leather or something like that. You can change die into any phase after rolling, even the letters. You can get more. At the end, there are more of these cards that give you extra points for having a set collection of different things. Then some will just give you straight points, but big points, and so on. As you can see over here. So eventually you will get down that path, you will buy cards, basically trying to expand yourself, your dice pool and so on, reaching the goal. Once you reach the goal, you will start drawing from that pile. At the start of the turn, you will always draw a card. When you reach it, you will also draw a card, and then you will keep those cards and you will draw, and you get points, 1, 2, or 3 points. And eventually, when you get to this card, and it doesn't matter if all the players have reached the goal, that means until you get this card, until you will not get this card, the game continues. But when you get this card, this marks the end of the game. You play till everybody has the same amount of turns, and then you will count points, and you get those points from those adventurers, and you get points from these cards over here, and from set collection of different relics. And as I told you, you can use letters to do various stuff. So instead of, for example, instead of buying a card, buying an adventurer or discoverer, you can buy a wagon instead. So it gives you 1 point, it gives you extra space for resource, because you can only have 6 resources at most. Or you can buy any card, even if you're not standing on it. If it's a vacant card, then you can buy it, but you have to pay a lot of letters. So that's how you play Jungli-La. So first of all, components and artwork. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the art in this game, but it suits this game well. It's a little bit, it's not childish, but it's on a family side, you know, this not too involved, cartoony little bits and all of that, so it fits the game well. Now, the components are also fine, the dice are engraved and so on, the cards, like Team G has a great production usually, so this is a small box, everything fits, and this is good to carry around. I mean, the game on the table itself, the game takes quite a lot of space, but the box is small, good design overly. But yeah, because I don't like the artwork that much, because it's not really popping out too much green for me, so I'll give components and artwork 4 out of 5. Now we go to the theme. The thing about this one is that it's like, for example, Love Letter and so on, all the other games. It's so abstractish. You will set up those different cards, which are basically different people, adventures, whatever they are. You go on them, you buy them for the resources. I didn't really feel any kind of a tie between the mechanics and the theme. It was just dice rolling, getting on those cards, and it's not like you will form your path, because there's a lot of that randomness, because you roll the dice and you see how much you will move. You have to move exactly that amount of space. I'm going to talk about the mechanics a little bit later, but overly, the theme wasn't that catchy. We're just getting to the end and then grabbing treasure cards. It would be maybe something nicer if you would have a bag of treasures where you get the tokens of treasures, and there are different shaped treasures and so on, to give even a little bit of that theme that you are on an adventure in a jungle. I never felt that. I know this is a small game, it's abstractish and so on, it's a Yahtzee, but I would have loved to have that jungle theme to it, but it was just basically non-themed game. But I'll give it, like, there is something to it, because of the artwork as well. So I'll give it the theme 2 out of 5. Now we go to the mechanics. So this is Yahtzee, and it's a family style Yahtzee. But the problem is that for such an easy game, this game takes too long. It outstays its welcome. So eventually what you're doing is that you're rolling the dice. You can re-roll some dice. Of course, there are some dice that are locked. It's a usual thing for the Yahtzee mechanic where, like, if you roll the letters, they get locked. The cool stuff is that you get those letters, and then you can use those letters as boost to your usual actions, or to buy another card, or to get something else and to move and so on. Like, basically, it kind of mitigates that luck if you get the letters, but it's nice addition, but it doesn't give too much to the game. It's boosting the same things you are doing anyway, but you can do them maybe a little bit better. And eventually what you're doing, you're stepping on this road, and when you roll the movement dice, you have to move exactly that many spaces. And that what bothers me. I mean, But though I don't know how they would, if there would be just a free movements, then that would be also a nuisance. I don't know how to make it, but it depends. Like if you collect the resources, it's all random. You roll the dice, you get those resources. You have only a certain amount of the spots for the resources. Or right, you buy some extra wagons to hold more resources. Then you roll the dice, and you want to get the card, a certain card. And because you rolled 3 movements, you go past this card. And alright, so I don't buy this card, I'll buy another card, just because you should buy something on your turn, but it's not as exciting. Maybe there are 1 or 2 cards you really want, and then everything else is not as exciting. Getting an extra resource is not as exciting as getting an extra die. I think getting an extra die is cool. Yes, I know there is a balance. The more dice you roll, the more possibilities that you will have the movement phases on the die, and so you have to move faster and so on. But moving faster isn't bad. You get to the treasure, while the others are just roaming around trying to get something. You get the treasures all the time. You get those treasure cards. Whoever gets there early has kind of an advantage over that, because they can roll 3 of the same. They can roll letters and so on, and they can spend all of that to buy extra cards, to get extra treasures. I feel, and if they have gotten some cards that give them extra dice, in the end, those extra dice cards are essential. I mean, then you want to roll all day, because at the end, you don't need any resources. You're rolling to get 3 of a kind. And that gives a great advantage to the player who got the right cards because of the luck, and then got to the end early, and then grabs those treasures on and on and on, and I roll the dice, and I don't get movement that much, and I feel like, okay, so the game's done, he won. I mean, why should I bother myself to finish the game? So that's a nuisance in this game. Now the other thing that, I mean, the cool part is that you have ABC cards, and the last cards are kind of an endgame scoring. It's all logical, but it's eventually just grab the resources, exchange them from the card. Letters are cool, and you can buy any card with a certain amount of letters, but sometimes letters don't come up. So it all evolves around what you get on your turn, and that's fine for an abstract-ish, luck-based Yahtzee mechanic. I mean, they are all like that, kinda. But the powers are not exciting, and the process itself is not exciting, and it always stays its welcome. So I'm just repeating myself now. But I'll give mechanics 3 out of 5. This game is nice for the family still. Now, replayability. And there are some cards that are left out from the path, and so there's a little bit of that replayability, how the cards are laid out. But eventually, all you do all the same stuff. There's not much to it. I mean, you will still go this kind of the same path. You will still grab basically the same cards. It's just, I grab the card that gives me the bread resource, or I grab the card that gives me the tools resource now. The difference is very, very narrow here, so I cannot see being for the gamers. I cannot see having a great replay value. At least for the families, who cares? Like, it's like with the Monopoly, you know. You will still buy all the same things. You will still go around the circle. So this one feels almost the same, and lots of people play like Monopoly for like million times. And they love it. For them, there is a lot of replayability all the time. Maybe. But for me, this game doesn't have such a great replayability, so I give it 3 out of 5 for replayability. Now we go to the scale. I think this game works fine with any player count, because it's basically you're rolling your dice, doing your stuff, and then the next player. The only thing, more players, maybe somebody grabs the card from you, even more randomness then to it. But, I mean, doesn't really matter. Maybe some small thing is that with more players you have to wait for a turn a little bit longer, but that's not an issue. So I would say played with any number of players, it feels almost the same. It's just with less players it's a little bit faster. With more players, maybe there's a little bit more of that movement on the cards and grabbing the cards from each other, which is also nice. So I give scale 5 out of 5. And now the total is 17 out of 25, which doesn't give it any medals. It's not a game I would... I don't know how to do about this one, about this review, because I don't know if I can recommend this game. This game is nice, but if we go with the Yahtzee mechanic, if we go with family style games, go with King of Tokyo, for example. So, bigger box, but so many cool things, special abilities and such. So here I would have loved to have all of that extra, because, I mean, with the letters as well, there are so many different possibilities where you can get those. I mean, like, we can spend those letters, but you might not get those letters and so on. So it's a little bit overcomplicated for the matter of those letters as bonuses, and then yet it always stays it's welcome as well, but it's so simple as well. So I cannot really grasp my thoughts on it. I cannot really, I don't know what to say about this game. I think this game is done and gone, at least in my opinion. It's not a bad game. It's okay. And for the families, why not? Try it out. You might like it more than me, but I don't think I can totally recommend this game. So that's Jungli-La, and we see you another time. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all these different social media channels as well. Check them out, and we see you in another video. Thank you. Bye. This channel is sponsored by Osprey Games. Check them out at ospreypublishing.com.